Okay, so we're on an Alpha and Aleph, we're middle of a three-way machlekes we had on top of the Amud. A machlekes are Meir of Yosi and Rav Chanina ben Antignis. The Gemara suggested that this machlekes was Ekashira bepeh, Ekashira bekli. The Gemara responded, and we're going to pick it up from there. V'tizbara. Let's pick up from there. 10 lines down. The first word in line is bikli. Says the Gemara, v'tizbara. That what? The machlekes is Ekashira bepeh, Ekashira bekli. And that's Rameir, and that's Achlina ben Antignis. What about Rabbi Yosi? Rabbi Yosi, Micah Savar, what does the middle sheet hold? Ika Savar, we did this in just a little bit of a running start. Ika Savar, Kashir Bepeh. I feel about him now. Ika Savar, Kashir Bekli. Leviamin Yisraelim Loi. So what's going on? Ella. Here we are. Tikuli Alm, everyone knows Kashir Bepeh. So what's the machlekes? Ubaha Kamifligi. Demar Savar, Achiave Maisa. They're arguing historical tidbits. Says the Gemara, are you kidding me? Who cares? So this is where we're up to. Says the Gemara, you know what the difference is? Do we elevate from the duchen to yuchsin? Do we say that because we saw you, now duchen doesn't mean what we know duchening mean. Duchen just means a platform. The Levium were singing on a platform. So do we assume that if I see Yankel up there on the platform, that proves to me he's a real Levi or not? That's the machlekes. I'm just getting a drink. Sorry. I forgot that putting down a pot of chocolate without a plate is like a little bit silly. Yeah. Okay. Liyuchsin, here we go. So Ma'alin l'duchen liyuchsin, do we elevate from the duchen, literally from the platform liyuchsin to lineage? There's always a shaila. Is a person a kohen? Is he a Levi? Is he kosher? What is he? It's always a shaila. Rabbi Yaakov, we're going to be machabed you with this story. That's a real keeper. You know that. It's not done.
I don't know.
That's not. Didn't know.
I don't know.
You don't auction it off in your house.
Now I know. Now I know. Dude.
Speaking about yichus, we should be wary. Says the Gemara, Malin l'duchen liyuchsin. The fact that we see a kohen, a Levi, singing, doing the avodah, does that prove that he's miyuchas, that he has good lineage? That is the machlekes, and this is literally precisely where we left off. Are we all here? We're all here. Nachamol? That is the machlekes. Man diyamar avodim hayu. Rabbi Meir, the first shita. Kosavar, he holds. The fact that there were avodim involved in the shira, getting involved with the instruments, proves to us, is every guy up there on the platform a good guy? Good or not is not maybe the subjective way of talking, but is he miyuchas? Does he have good lineage? No, he's an Eved. Uman Damar Yisrael, you. Who is that? Rav Chanina ben Antignis. Kosavar. Malim miduchel liyuchsin. Excuse me. I said that wrong. Who said that you're Yisraelim? That was the second shita. That was Rabbi Yosi. Again, everyone. We have three shitas on the top of the Amud. Okay? Rameir, Rabbi Yosi, Rav Chanina ben Antignis. Rameir said they were avodim. Rabbi Yosi said what? There were different families that were so special they married in. And the third one was Chanina ben Antignis said they were Leviim. So these three shitas are debating do we elevate from the Dochin to Yochsin? According to the opinion that says they're Avadim, Avadanat. According to the opinion that says the Risei Elim, the middle one, now it's in the middle. What does it mean in the middle? It means we elevate for Yochsin, but not for Meiser. Not for Meiser. There's two different stages in the totem pole of life. One is that we give you the status of miyuchas, that you're kosher, that you're allowed to marry into Kehanim Levim, you allowed to do what you want. The second higher level status is we even allow you to eat meiser. So the middle level, it says the Yisraelim will be malim, will elevate, but not lemais. But Uman Damar Erev Tov Rav Menachem.
What would be the Hava meaning that you'd be allowed to let Yisrael have this? Isn't that strictly for God?
No, it's a contrast. You're absolutely correct. It's a three-way contrast showing us if you hold Avadim, they're nothing. If you hold, we're about to see right now, Levium, they're everything. And if you're in the middle, Yisraelim, they're chetzi chetzi. Like a good, Rabavi, like a good what? A chetzi chetzi? Like a good shawarma. Like a good shawarma. Avada. Avada. What do you think?
I thought you were going to say good yaki.
That was a steal.
My head went this wrong.
Avada. What else is a chetzi chetzi? Man damer Levium ayu. Kasavar. Malin miduchin. Bein liyochsin bein lemaiser. Period. End of yesterday's Gemara. Now, we have to zoom out of our Gemaras. Everyone zoom out of your Gemaras. I'm going to give a global view right now. I actually have it even up numbered in my Gemara, just so you can see what's going on. It has before Ibn Ashir, very important.
Yesterday?
No.
Oh, okay.
I meant end of yesterday's share, meaning end of the Sugya.
Okay.
No, that was a continuation. That was Lazar. I just meant that was a continuation. Good. Now, if you remember, let's go all the way back to Nunamid base. Nunamid base, we quoted a Brisa. Tana Rabbanan. Everyone together, Nunamid base, about 10 lines down. Tana Rabbanan. HaChalil Deiches HaShabbos Tivir Rav Yisi Rav Yehuda. V'chachamim oimrim af yom tov einoi deicha. Rav Yosef came along and said, what is the machlokes? B'shir shel karbon. But b'shir shel she'eva, divrei hakol, it's simcha, and it's not deicha Shabbos. So you keep your finger on Rav Yosef over here, Rav Yosef. Now, over here, on an Aleph and an Aleph, we have Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba. Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba is commenting back on that machlokes over there. Okay, that's why it's just confusing on what is he talking about. Once you know that, it's very simple. So again, we had and why we're bringing this down is figure out our mission. But we had a brisa that said, Achalil is a deicha Shabbos of Yisrael Yudin Chachamim. Rav Yosef said the machlokes is what? Listen very carefully, because Rav Yirmiyah is going to be the exact opposite. Rav Yosef said the machlokes is shear shel karbon, but everyone agrees shear shel she'eva is not doicha Shabbos. Now we come to Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba over here. Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba, Amar comments back on that brisa. And as we often say, or we don't know if we say enough, half of the complication of Gemara is just to know what is the Gemara doing. Once we know what it's doing, once we have the roadmap, the rest of it is much easier. So once we realize that what the Gemara here is doing, it's commenting back on this brisa. Oh, Gevaldiks. Now we have Rav Yosef right over here, his shita. Next to Rav Yosef, we have Rav Yirmiyah. We cut out this whole middle shtickle. Because I was all trying to figure out what Rav Yosef held. Now we can, 1 second. Now we can contrast Rav Yirmiyah with Rav Yosef.
Why was it brought down there?
That's a good kasha. Often it would be. Often the Gemara would say Rav Yosef says das, Rav Yirmiyah says das, and then the Gemara would go back and forth. Here it doesn't, but yeah, that's a very, very valid point. Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba, Amar, machlokes b'shir shel she'eva. Which, if you're listening, that's the exact opposite. What's the machlokes? There is Rav Yehuda Savar Simcha Yisir Nami Deiches Shabbos. For Rabbanan Savar Simcha Yisir Eino Deiches Shabbos. Avol Shir Shel Karbon Divrei Hakol Avoidi V'Yes Deiche Es HaShabbos. Exact opposite of Rav Yosef. So if you want to really get a good snapshot of this whole blot, As we're about to see, now we're going to discuss Rav Yirmiyah. It's just two shitas commenting on a brisa, which then comes back to our Mishnah and tells us what's the din of Simchas Beis HaShveva. And it's really very simple. I actually have, you can see over here, I have Rav Yosef underlined and Rav Yirmiyah. I underlined inside my Gemara. I've gotten yelled at by many Rabbeim, but it's okay because I don't care because it makes it easier for me to learn. So that's what I do. It's just my thing. And then I even number, by Rav Yosef, I have a number 1 in a circle. And by Rav Yirmiyah, I have a number 2 in a circle. Two different shitas commenting back in the Braisa, just giving us the global overview. So now, we're now discussing Rav Yirmiyah. Now we have a kasha in Rav Yirmiyah, or Rav Tov, Rav Shirley. Meisvei, frakti Gemara, shir shel sheiva, doiche Shabbos. It's an explicit Braisa that says, shir shel sheiva, is Deicha Shabbos Rav Yosef Rav Yehuda. Chama Imrim, Af Yontav Ina Deicha. Ti Yofta, Ti Rav Yosef, Ti Yofta. So this is where you get really confused. Because you say, Rav Yosef? Who's Rav Yosef? So now we know who Rav Yosef is. He's back over here. That's Rav Yosef. So that's Rav Yosef, and this is Rav Yirmiyah. And now we just
But then Rav
proved.
Yosef is Rav Yosef, no?
Oh, Tifta de Rav Yosef to Yofta. No, where does it say Rav Yosef? Two different people.
Am I looking at the wrong thing?
No, you're there. Go jump further. Where are you? Go a little further. Meisvei. First word in the line is, I think, Rav Yosef. First word in the line is Meisvei. Yeah. First word in the line is Meisvei. Yeah? See it?
Yeah.
Shir shel sheyeva. Doichze Shabbos. Tifta Rav Yosef Rav Yehuda. Chama imrim av yontav ino deicha.
I'll teach you Rav Yosef.
So who's Rav Yosef? So first of all, if you look at Rashi keys you in a little bit. To Amar, moide Rav Yosef b'shir shel sheyeva de lo yidchi. But you didn't.
Was the one who said the machlekes was shir shakar.
Ah, very good. So if you didn't know that, Rashi almost is like, the Amar, when did Rav Yosef tell this to me? Oh, so now we know who it is. It's Rav Yosef back over there. The Rav Yosef said,
Yeah, but it's not Deicha Shabbos.
there we go. Now we just fragged it up straight up. Beautiful, beautiful. I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful.
Unless maybe Rav Yosef was the one who was right. How do we know? How do we know?
How do you know that Brisa was correct? Okay, so that's true. So the Gemara is assuming that Brisa is a verified Brisa. That is true. Sometimes the Gemara would respond, Treitanoia Liba, that is another version, another Girsa. That's absolutely correct. The Gemara doesn't. Now, says the Gemara, Lema, let us suggest, Bashir shall Shaiva, who depligi. Let's suggest, which, if it sounds familiar,
Yeah,
this is,
that-
very good. Lema, Bashir shall Shaiva, who depligi. Avol Bashir shall Carbon, Divri Akol, Doiches HaShabbos. Which is what whom just said, Rav Yirmiyah. Says the Gemara, Lema Tavitiyufta to Rav Yosef, Vitarti. What's the Gemara trying to say? How do we just ask on Rav Yosef?
However you look at it, there's a kasha on
It's a double kasha on Rav Yosef, which really, the way that we can say it a little easier, Rav Yosef and Rav Yirmiyah Barabo were exact opposites. 180 degrees, not looking at each other at all. So a kasha on Rav Yosef is not a one-fold kasha, it's a two-fold kasha. Because if I disprove A, I disprove B. So Rav Yosef, your mamish in the garbage. So Rav Yosef finally responds. They argue shir shel sheiva. Now, this is difficult. Why is this difficult? Because it's not what Rav Yosef said. Everyone realizes what's going on over here? Amr l'cha Rav Yosef. Pligi b'shir shel sheiva. I'm just reminding you. Look back over here.
So there's no
Yosef said there's no machleks. Good. So is this a chazara? What exactly is happening over here? We're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see afterwards. Let's see. Amr l'cha Rav Yosef. Pligi b'shir shel sheiva. V'hu hadin l'karban. Oh, so now Rav Yosef is saying they argue by both. Meaning, when we had Amar Rav Yosef prior, what did Rav Yosef say? And what did we in the Gemara infer from his statement. When the Gemara said, "Avol shir shel sheiva divrei akol simchi v'enu deichas Shabbos," was that Rabbi Yosef's statement? No, that was the Gemara commenting. Rabbi Yosef just said machlekes b'shir shel karban. So we rightfully assumed, if I tell you they argue about A, so you say, they argue about A and not B. Now says Gemara, no, you got it wrong. You know what Rabbi Yosef really holds? They argue about A and B. Now, why he said A is a good cash, but says the Gemara, good by both. Fuadin the carbon. So now says the Gemara, but I don't get it. So why did they argue about Shir Shel Shayeva in the Brisa? To teach you the Brisa spoke about one of the cases. Why? To teach you Rav Yehuda, which is what? The afilu the shaiva nami dachi. Now, so why is that a bigger chiddush? Because a heter is a bigger chiddush than an isser. For Rav Yosi to Rav Yehuda to say afilu shir shel shaiva's daicha, that means he mamish holds its mutter all the way across the board. And we always like koyach tatir atif. We always like that when you speak something out, you speak of the biggest chiddush. So he speaks out that case, which is the biggest chiddush. Good. It's a little bit of a nitty gritty Gemara, but are we good so far? We're good. There's one Rashi I want to read, but I will let's. Oh well, it's getting late. We'll do it after. Says the Gemara, v'hakatani, but we learnt, v'hakatani, zeu chalil shel beisa sheyeva she'ino deichlo sheshavs yantif. What does zehu mean? This. What does this mean? Chalil. But it means only this. This doesn't mean and that. If I'm going to tell you they argue by two cases, do you use the word zehu? No. Right. You'd say they argue by A. And then also B. Obviously. Says the Gemara. Zehu dinoi daiche. Ava the carbon daiche. But now we have a big problem. What's the problem? Mani. Whose opinion is this? E name of Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. Amar shel sheivanami deicha. Elalav, it must be the Rabbanon. But then what does it prove? To Yufta, Rabbi Yosef Pitarti to Yufta. Meaning we wanted to suggest that maybe what does Rabbi Yosef actually hold? They argue by both cases. Says the Gemara, that's not possible. Because if Rabbi Yosef argued by both cases, we don't have a Tan on the Mishnah. So it has to be that Rabbi Yosef only argued by one case. The Tana of the Mishnah is the Rabbanon. We have a conflicting brisa connected Rabbi Yosef. Okay, Rabbi Yosef, you're wrong. Rabbi Yosef, you're wrong. And really just shows us that on the totem pole of everything, the Mishnah has to be right. So the Mishnah is ironclad. Then we have a machlekes Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Yirmiyah, and then we have brisais. So the brisais are going to tell us Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Yirmiyah, and we could play around as much as we want. But if it doesn't fit back into the Mishnah, something doesn't. Your chips don't work.
Doesn't it unless another Tana argues against it?
We had another Mishnah in a Chanami. That's what we pull out a trait tonight or something like that. But the Gemara clearly doesn't find that, and the Gemara concludes with this. We're going to stop over here. Now, we actually did a lot of...
Rashi.
Yeah, I want to see one Rashi. Actually, am I nervous to confuse everyone? 1 second. No, let's not look at Rashi. Rashi, I'll just say which Rashi I was going to look at. Rashi Nima to Havi Tufti Rav Yosef. Rashi just articulates the step of the Gemara. But let's leave it. And let's start a Chazar, because this is really a very nitty gritty Gemara. But it's in a way, the reason it's a beautiful Gemara is because if you have clear from the Mishnah till here, everything fits in beautifully. The puzzle is gewalt. If you don't have clear, it's one big chalot.